All right, y'all. Welcome to our exclusive, but not really exclusive because we're releasing this to everyone, MagicCon live podcast recording. We are sitting right next to the command zone at MagicCon Vegas here, and we're going to be recording a recommendation from one of our good friends, Tony from the Howling Salt Mine.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. So, do you want to start us off with what card we are going to be talking about today?
Yeah, the recommendation from Tony, and I just want to preface this, that when we got this recommendation, we both knew that this was a card I needed to bring. This is a very card. It is Soot Imp. It is 1 generic and 2 black pips. It's a creature, Imp, with flying. Whenever a player casts a non-black spell, that player loses 1 life. It's a 1 power, 2 toughness, and the flavor text is, if one gets in your chimney, you're going to need a long wick and a barrel of bang stuff to get it out. Hob, heddle.
That's a really interesting flavor text. Don't want a Soot Imp in your chimney.
That's pretty good.
All right. Do you want to get into your positives for Soot Imp? Now, I'm going to preface this by saying when Tony asked us to do this card, I straight up told him, hey, I don't know if this is going to appeal to the masses. I know this appeals to ob-nixilis, and I'm sure you're going to get into that. So I'd love to hear the positives for Soot Imp. Start us off.
So Tony at least got me started here with a quick and easy one. The great thing about this card, much like other cards I've brought to the podcast, this can really help stop storm decks and specifically like LED lines when people are trying to go through their LED Underworld Breach, Brain Freeze lines. So this is a really great one for that. I've been playing a lot of against a lot of Clark Sakashima this weekend, and so you're going to be able to kind of also temper those type of manual storm decks. I've played against a lot of Korvold.
Yeah,
right?
Shout out Lance Korvold.
Right, and again, I know with Korvold for sure, they're using their life total pretty heavily as a resource, and so this is a card that kind of really
makes it difficult. Yeah, it makes it a little difficult for sure.
Yeah,
I think the first thing that kind of came to mind after we initially chatted about this, when I told you, hey, Tony recommended this, what do you think of this card? Your eyes lit up. You were so happy. You're like, this is one of my cards. And I actually think that it reminds me a lot of Cabal, which was one of the cards that we did. What episode was that? I don't know. We're live right now, and we don't have a computer in front of us for us to look.
It was one of our first ones. Go back. Somebody let us know.
Yeah, let us know what episode Cabal was. But that was one of our big points, right? One of our big points from Cabal was it makes navigating Underworld Breach lines really difficult. So I like that about that. What's your second point?
My second point is that it is really good, and I think this is the reason that Tony brought it up, is it's really good in ob-nixilis.
Yep. It's just like the synergy is crazy. So let's tell us about what you're expecting, because I know you pilot ob-nixilis, or at least you used to pilot ob-nixilis a lot. Is this in your ob-nixilis list?
No, but honestly, that's probably why my eyes lit up, is like, oh my gosh, that's actually really banger. In it. I mean, you're just waiting for people to cast non-black spells, right? Like almost every...
And like we can estimate, like what's the turn cycle looking like? Like you're at least seeing... what, I would say like 3, maybe? So if you have Ob out, that's 3 cards that you get to cast.
Yep.
Before the next end step that you're going to have, your next end step, right?
Yep, I think so. I think, and this is one, like the way the meta is now, right? You're hopefully going to get, if you can get this, you're going to get this down turn 2 or turn 3. And then hopefully get ob-nixilis down on the next turn.
Or the reverse, honestly.
Right? Yeah.
When Tony talked about it, he said a lot of times he's like, turn 2 Ob, turn 3 Soot Imp. I almost said Stinkweed Imp.
No. That's a very different card.
That's a very different card. But, and kind of going back on the first point we were talking about, when Ob is out specifically, I think it's kind of interesting to not only, like your opponents not only have to play through the loss of life, but they're also playing through any potential cards you're flipping into that could disrupt them.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
So whether you're flipping into a Reb or even like a Rending Volley, just something that's going to make their life more difficult, that is specific ob-nixilis heat.
Yep.
Right? Cool. What's your last point?
My last point is something that I don't normally bring up always, but I think the fact that it is a chew butt as well as having flying with 1 power.
That's relevant.
It's actually pretty relevant. It's not going to die immediately to an OBM, right? It needs somebody to draw, and so and it may not eat it right away.
Yeah.
If somebody rips out an OBM, like, you're still kind of happy.
But even with the flying, I thought you were going to say,
for sure.
You just trigger ob.
Yep.
You just poke him for 1.
Yep. You're triggering ob. Like, you're going to send this towards somebody. Hopefully nobody else has flying, and you're going to at least get another trigger.
The baseline is always 1.
Right.
Yeah. The floor is not 0.
Yep.
I mean, yeah. The floor is not 0 unless you're playing something that's going to like -1 power from all imps. Wow. What a card.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this is a great, simple one that I really kind of like. Like I said, Tony and I might actually have a lot more in common. Wait, am I throwing him under the bus? Maybe I am. I don't know.
I don't know.
Tony, if you're listening, sorry.
All right. Are you ready to get into the downsides?
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to do another preface. I already did one. This is the second one. I ripped into Tony pretty hard for this one. The first part is just the CMC. The CMC is really high, and I know that the general consensus and Tony's rebuttal from it was if he's turn 2 ob, turn 3 imp is like not that bad to rip turn 3. It's like, sure, you're not getting like an instant win on your turn 3, but you're developing and able to kind of grind out into the mid game. But I think my thought process is like, okay, you play this imp, you get, 1 or 2 ob trigger cards that you may or may not want. It's like, for this exact cost, let's go back in time to our episode we did on Braids, Arisen Nightmare, which, for those of you who haven't listened, that card is the exact same mana cost, and every end step you have the ability to sacrifice something, and if your opponents don't sacrifice something of the same type, so whether it's an artifact, creature, land, whatever, if they don't choose to sacrifice as well, they lose 2 life and you draw a card.
Yep.
So I've been playing a lot of Braids recently in my Corvold list, and it is spicy. People will not sack their stuff if they don't feel like they absolutely have to. So Braids is essentially draw 3 cards every turn for that same value.
On your turn.
On your turn. True. It is at your end step is when you're going to be drawing those 3 cards. But the way I see it is like I'd rather have those 3 like not guaranteed, but pretty solidly guaranteed cards than have potentially 3 imp triggers that are ob cards, so they go bye-bye if you don't need them, if there's nothing for you to use with them, or, they're, lands that you can't just keep in your hand for a next turn to play. I think there are higher value 1 and 2 black, or even 2 and a black cards that you could play in your list and get more value out of. So that's my first point.
Yep, I can see that.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like you're an ob player. Do you even think that you would consider Braids in ob? I know this is kind of a bit of a tangent, but like since I made the comparison, do you think it's just like straight up no, dealing 1 damage is always better because it's ob?
I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty high on Braids. Like, I can see a world where I slot that in because it does get you so much value, right? And Soot Imp is looking for a similar type of value, and I do think that there's a potential for you to see more cards with Soot Imp than Braids, and so
true, but they don't stick around.
They don't stick around. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but they don't stick around. Cool. My second point is that when ob particularly isn't out, it's like a gnat. Like it's really not difficult to deal with. Like, sure, post Nas going for some sort of underworld breach line, this can be difficult. But other than that, like you're literally just poking your opponents when they're just playing their game and like winning their game. It's like this isn't going to stop some sort of this isn't going to stop Thassa's Demonic Consultation. This isn't going to stop most infinite mana loops. It's just going to kind of be there. Like, sure, they take 2 damage. Okay, I win the game. Like, I think that is what I'm a little worried about, where, like, the floor is pretty low for it. And that kind of leads into my third point, which is what we talked about at the beginning, which is I don't think that there's any other deck that would consider this in CEDH. I could not think of one. And when I asked Tony, I'm not throwing him under the bus, but I am. I asked Tony, I said, what other list would you play this in? He goes, I don't know, Corvold? I just laughed. I died. I was like, no, I will not be playing this in Corvold. So the only other list that kind of came to mind was the Esper list I made a while back. We called Esper Slurp.
Yep.
Yeah, which is a Rafine list that kind of plays like Blood Chief's Ascension. It plays like Kumbal. It plays a lot of the like Shieldred type effects where when other people are drawing a card, you're losing life. I think it plays Rug of Smothering, which is very similar to this card, but a lot easier to cast because it's 3 generic. So, maybe I would consider it in like a Drain the Table type grindy CEDH deck, but that's fringe too, right?
Yeah.
That's way more fringe than ob-nixilis. So I don't know if there's going to be another... I definitely don't think that there's an S-tier deck, any 5-color, 4-color good pile deck that's going to actually play the card.
Well, to go back to your second point real fast,
to
talk about that, I think the point against this card is like the same point against any of the cards that are kind of bad, but mainly good in ob-nixilis is like, the whole thing kind of goes down if ob isn't out, right? Like like the parasite, like Cataract Parasite
is a useless card.
It's a useless
card.
You're doing 1 damage every time
all
somebody draws.
All of the ob trigger enablers, are pretty useless.
And so that's kind of like the weakness
point.
about ob-nixilis. Actually, something I thought you were going to bring up, but you didn't.
Lay it on him.
Sorry, Tony. Is the fact that you're still pinging yourself, right? And that player takes 1 life. And so I don't know, and maybe he isn't, right? Maybe he isn't playing ad nauseam. And so, Tony, if you're listening, if you can share your list, I'd love to take a look. If you're leveraging your life total, every time you play your little red spell, you're going to ping yourself. Right.
Yeah.
And you're kind of trying to manually storm off, and so you kind of almost need a way to kind of kill this off, or maybe that's why you play Abrades, so that you can...
Black has access to that, though. Like, you can play something like a Diabolic Intent, that can just kind of get rid of this before you can win the game. But that is interesting that it does hurt yourself, too. It's a little bit of an ouchie.
It is a bonus con.
Yeah,
normally
the fourth point. We normally
point.
do 3, but there's always 1 fourth that's just like hee hee. So that's our last one. All right, what point did I make that you think is the best point against the Soot Imp?
For me, it's probably going to be the cost.
Yeah.
Right. I think the 2 black pips plus just being 3, right? If it was 2 black pips, period, like I could see definitely a better world. And I mean, I guess the argument is that you're
playing on curve,
and you're playing a lot of
ob than imp.
Rituals as well, like black rituals,
true.
And so like that it is not like there is some tricky math that happens with ob sometimes, and I think that's one of those things that you're gonna just have to learn to make sure you're navigating right, and learning to do your math. That's all I'll say about that one. But
and like, is Cataract Parasite 2 mana, or is it 1 mana? I know it's not 3.
It's not 3. I think it actually might be 1 black pip.
Yeah, okay. So if it is 1, then I don't know if it is. But look it up right now while we're live. Don't worry, I'll fill the space. MagicCon's great. We're standing in an area right now where people are walking by and watching us as we talk into mics. And everyone has smiled at us, so I think they're down with it.
It is 1 black pip. So it is much better cost.
Yeah, so that's going to enable ob not as consistently. Like, maybe it's similar in terms of how consistent it's going to be triggering for 1 damage. I don't know. I feel like Cataract Parasite is like, when I think of 1 damage enablers in ob-nixilis, it's like Cataract Parasite is the holy grail. Like, that's like the card. That's just because how often it triggers. So with Soot Imp being 3 times the cost, it's pretty tough. Yeah. Pretty tough.
What about a point from mine that makes you think like, oh, okay, that's not so bad?
Yeah, I actually like the point that the floor won't be 0 ever in ob, where because it's a 1/2, it's actually better than if it were a 2/2. Which is so funny, because you can just get an ob ping, or not an ob ping, but you know what I mean. You get an ob trigger from the attack of the imp.
Yep.
So I like that the floor is not completely nothing.
Yep.
But I'm still not sold. Sorry.
So with that being said, I guess
I skipped forward.
You completely skipped forward, and we're not going to cut this. Kyle, it's time. Have we changed your mind? Is this a good card?
No. Look, in ob, I think it's super cool. I just wish that there were more applications of this card. Like, I wish it were able to be played in other things. And look, I'm not against trying this in the Esper Slurp list.
Yeah.
Because I like how Rug of Smothering feels, and I think that this is definitely worse at stopping people than Rug of Smothering. But I just wish it was more applicable in other places. But for ob, sure, if you like it in your ob lists, I wouldn't call it a troll card by any means. Like, it could be good, but I also see this as one of those cards that like ob players will just cut. You just cut to deal with other things. So I don't know. I haven't played against a lot of obs that where it seems like they're having trouble getting ob triggers. I feel like it's just one of those things that's just easy to happen, right? It just happens.
Out of solidarity for Tony, I will definitely be slotting this in.
Hell yeah.
I still have my list together, and so I'll be slotting it in and trying it out. I'm trying to pick up a list for Fishbowl, which is happening in March. So if you are all listening and you're interested in doing that, come check us out. We'll be there.
Yep, we'll be at is it Fishbowl 4 or is it 5?
Fishbowl. I think just Fishbowl.
Might be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
I can't remember.
I don't know.
Hey, if you haven't checked one out, check it out.
Yep. Shout out higher. All right, let's get into our final closing segment, which is kind of our plan was just to talk about MagicCon in general. We're sitting here right next to the command zone. Yeah, how's your con been?
It's been excellent.
Yeah.
It's been excellent. I got to do exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Which is meet people, like Tony, Sam, and Mike from the Howling Salt Mine, and Nick, and just meeting people and the genuine kindness of the community has just blown me away. How about for you?
It's very similar. It's just being able to interact with all of these other CEDH creators, shout out, like we can just throw all the shout outs out there. I'm just going to just like list them off. We played games with the Things in the Ice guys.
Yes.
I know the Back on the Stack people are here. Yeah. I know we were able to, get games in with the Howling Salt Mine, like you said. Shout out to the Teaching CEDH event that we did on Friday.
Good.
I
Thanks,
think
Lua.
that's the highlight. Yeah, Lua was just incredible at managing that whole event. The event went great. We were able to play 4 or 5 games with people who had never played CEDH before or were new to CEDH, and we got some great games in. A couple people, their very first CEDH games, they got a win. It was awesome.
If I had to pick one moment, it would have been those 4 hours, 3 hours, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Honestly, it went by so fast. Like,
oh yeah,
seeing people who came down and were like, hey, I've never played CEDH. I'm only a casual player. Mm-hmm. But to see their eyes kind of like I remember a couple people looking at their board state on turn 2 and just going, this is turn 2. I have to keep telling myself, like this is
holy
crazy.
Shit.
I was like,
we've done so much, and it's turn 2, and it's like, come to the dark side,
right?
Play CEDH,
right? Like, it was so cool, to get to just teach people and show them the joy of this game.
Yeah, it was awesome. Got to get some games in with Tyler from Play to Win.
That was
and
cool, huh?
Ian, comedian. It was just awesome. The whole atmosphere of MagicCon. One of our friends who this was their first MagicCon, he told me as we were walking in today on the last day of MagicCon, he said, I have never played this much Magic and not seen anyone salty. Not anyone being a jerk. He was shocked.
Yep.
Everyone that we've played with, and they played with a lot of strangers too, every single person has just been a genuinely good person, and I love it. I haven't had a single negative interaction while we've been here. It's just incredible. And we even have met a couple of people who came solo just to visit and play games, and I've heard the exact same thing. Even as a solo player or visitor to these cons, you can have a blast just meeting awesome, genuine people and just jamming games. So 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yes.
We're looking at our schedule to try to figure out when we can be back at another MagicCon. But if you've never been to a MagicCon before, we would definitely recommend it.
For sure. If you're whatever a close one, I know the next one is Chicago in February.
Yeah, and then I think they're back in Vegas
in June.
In June or July or something like that in the
Jeez.
summer. Woo, it's going to be 120
It'll
degrees.
be hot.
Woo.
Oh, boy.
And then I think it finishes off in Atlanta, I think is the last one, in Georgia.
I think so.
Chicago and Atlanta might be swapped. I'm not sure which one it is. I just know Vegas in June or July is the next one in Vegas, and everyone's a little nervous, but I think it's going to be fun and exciting. You get your Magic games in, and then you hit the pool.
The convention is very well air conditioned.
Oh yeah, there's tons. The air conditioning is great. It's not muggy in here at all.
No.
And it's 90 degrees outside, so it's still pretty hot.
Yep.
But the air conditioning is great.
Cool.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening to our live recording of our podcast of Soot Imp, and thank you very much to Tony for our recommendation for this card. If this is your first time listening to us, go ahead and check the description down below with 2 links to our link tree where you'll find everywhere we post the podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or Spotify. We appreciate you listening to this episode, and thank you for supporting us.
Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure meeting people who actually listen. That's crazy to me.
Yes. Yeah, the CEDH community was out in full at MagicCon, which
cool.
is great. There were so many CEDH games being played, so super exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will see you next Monday for a normal version
That's right.
of our That's a Good Card podcast. Bye.
Bye.